Rhonda, and today we're going to go on a tour of where food scraps come to get turned into fantastical food for the plants. So before we go any further, I want to point some things out. Take a little poll, if you will. All right, I got it. So we have got 3 piles of stuff that kind of all ran together, so my apologies. All right, we got pile A, pile C, and pile B. All right, which of these piles do you guys think is compost? All right, I'm going to answer it for you. Pile B is the actual compost. So when I say compost on today's tours, I mean pile B. All right, finished compost that is ready to feed the garden, ready to feed the trees and feed the yard. All right. Pile A is what I'll refer to as food scraps or organics. Organics being anything that was once alive, okay, whether it's a plant or an animal. I'll call it food scraps because although we might be eating some of this food, we may not be eating wood chips. However, those fantastical microbes that are turning all of that into compost, something usable by the plants, do consider it food. All right, pile C over here is just soil. All right, when compost and soil get mixed together, it makes the perfect environment for healthy, happy plants. Mother Nature is composting all the time. All right, so and without compost, or in sciencey words, it's humus, we would not be having the beautiful green mountains that we have, nor would we be here because, well, we wouldn't have any plants to breathe the oxygen they create. So composting is super important. We humans are impatient and, for the most part, a little wasteful. So we have a lot of food scraps and extra leaves and things left over in our yard that can be turned into compost. We just do it because we're impatient. Here at Green Mountain Compost, we just do it pretty darn quickly. Like we're talking 6 to 8 weeks until it goes out to actually be cured. What kind of things do you put in the compost? Well, anything, again, that comes from a plant or an animal. And we're talking about a compost that you guys, or food scraps that you guys would be collecting to drop here at Green Mountain Compost. In your backyard, you don't want to put like meat and bones and dairy and things like that because they attract those fantastic little critters, all right? Like skunks and raccoons. So we want to leave those out. So you can bring those, if you're a backyard composter, great. Bring your meat, bones, and dairy here to Green Mountain Compost, and it will get turned into fabulous food. Why compost, you might be asking yourself? Well, one, come July 1st of this year, it will be the law for everybody in the fabulous state of Vermont to keep their food scraps out of the trash. Does that mean you have to compost at home? No, not everybody's into it. My motto is always dirty hands, happy hands, but you know, that's not for everybody. So you can, though, drop them off at Green Mountain Compost. And currently, just due to the COVID-19 protocols, our drop-off centers are closed. However, once we get back to normal operations, you can use any of the drop-off centers as well to drop off your food scraps. So there are different ways that you can deal with your food scraps. Today, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be taking a look at this industrial operation here in Williston. So why do we compost aside from it being the law come July 1st? Well, personally, as a scientist, I find the biology behind composting super fascinating, all right? 2, when we put food scraps in the trash, they go right to the landfill. We've got one landfill for the state of Vermont for the most part. About 80% of our trash goes there. When you put food scraps in the trash, they don't actually break into fantastic soil or fantastic compost. They actually make stinky trash gas. So they make methane gas, all right? Landfills are the 3rd top producer of methane gas in the United States. All right, methane gas is anywhere from 20 to 25 times stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So the more we can keep out of the trash, the better. Now, cool thing about our landfills, they do collect methane for electricity generation. So that is a cool part, but they're really not doing that until 10 years. About 10 years after that one big landfill hole gets filled up and capped, then they start really vacuuming off the methane. So, but they will harvest that methane for decades afterwards. So, but that doesn't say that put your food scraps in the trash, all right? Another reason is compost, the finished compost, like this compost right here, run out of it, but this compost right here will actually provide nutrition to your plants in your garden, your lawn, even your woods. And it'll also provide them the vitamins they need to fight off attacks, whether that's by insect or fungus or virus or bacteria. Compost has been proven to really be like the Flintstones vitamins that we took as kids, or some of us did anyway. It's that for plants. All right. There's a myriad reasons to compost, but so in light of time and because we got a late start, we'll just mosey on. Oh, first process. Let's go through that real quick. How do we go from pile A to pile B, which is getting smaller and smaller as we speak? But so it is the fantastic microbes, all right, or I call them the FBI agents: fungus, bacteria, and my personal favorite, invertebrates. But here at Green Mountain Compost, we're not concerned about the invertebrates because we're actually doing all of our active composting on a cement slab. So those invertebrates aren't even really a part of the process. So we are basically here to make a spa-like conditions for fungus and bacteria. Who knew? And not all bacteria are bad. We're talking about the good guys. Just a little factoid. All right? 10% of your body weight, bacteria and viruses. No. All right, so we are going to mosey on this direction. So we have this little educational spot, and I want to say it would be really cool if you guys could be here in person today. I missed your smiling faces. However, this is the best we can do under these circumstances. And at least it's not raining because it was supposed to rain. All right, so once our compost is complete and it actually goes out, I'm kind of going backwards in order here, but it gets cured. And as it's curing, we actually use this greenhouse right over here to test all of every single batch of our compost. So every batch that is made actually goes and gets grown. And let's take a real quick peek inside here. Just a real quick peek in there. Now that is past its prime for our grow tests on that batch, because our magnificent compost queen Kim is at home working from home. So right now we're getting ready to change out that and test a new batch with fava beans and clover, because they're very sensitive to heavy metals, very sensitive to pesticides as well. So we want to kind of get a jump start if something's going on at wackadoodle. Now every 100 yards of compost that we make, we actually send off to a lab to get tested. All right, so we know exactly the maturity level and all of the nutrients in it. All right, so what we're gonna do, so this is the facility. So if we want to pan around and check it out, or part of it anyway. All right. And because of the current situation, we do have, a lot more traffic coming in here. People are, they're homebound and they want to get rid of their leaves, and I understand that. But I say chop them up with the lawnmower and fertilize your lawn. All right, your lawn, your grass needs food too, needs nutrients, and those leaves all chopped up, kind of mulched up into the lawn will actually help them grow. It's going to be a little hard to hear me out here, so we are. I'm going to try to get close, and I don't want to wear a mask because then you won't be able to hear me at all, despite my ginormous voice. All right, there goes Andrew right there. He just got to unload in a truck. So we sell compost, but we sell it only to 2 yards and above. All right, so if you want more than 2 yards, you have to be able to pick it up in a dump truck or a dump trailer. All right. Talking about earlier, they like specific recipe. All right, so they like to eat a lot of food. All right, they need water to survive, and they need oxygen, just like us. They need food, water, and oxygen. But their food, their menu, if you will, a little different than ours. So they like brown food and green food. And you hear this in the world of compost all of the time. Let me take these up. So You can, in the world of compost, you hear browns and greens and browns and greens. You may have been like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what that is. Brown food is basically anything that's dry and brown in color. All right. So we got here. We've got, this is the largest leaf pile in the whole wide world. All right. So we've got browns. This is what we use for our browns. The brown food is the carbon. All right. It is the carbohydrates that give the energy to those FBI agents, or especially the fungus and the bacteria, to get the job done. All right, they have a big job to do, and they really, really need a lot of energy. As a matter of fact, they need 3 times as much energy as they do the green food, which is our food scraps, and that provides them the nitrogen or the protein, so they can replicate themselves and grow into big giant pollinators. All right, so if you see me looking, it's just because we have been very busy here. You can check out all of the people dropping leaves off. Last Monday, we had over 600 vehicles come through here. On a typical day, we might see tops 40. So, I'm not used to that kind of traffic. So if you see me looking, it's just because I don't want to get hit. So, those microbes, and this goes for your backyard pile too. Those microbes are wanting those that recipe to be 3 times as much brown food, and that could be straw, that can be sawdust, that can be paper. All right, even shredded up paper or cardboard, leaves, sticks and twigs, that kind of stuff. So all of that is the brown. You want 3 times as much. So if you have a bucket full of food scraps, you want to follow that food scraps with 3 buckets of brown dry stuff. All right. Now here at Green Mountain Compost, because we are an industrial site, we actually compost a little differently. We dive a little deeper into the molecular makeup of all of our feedstocks, being leaves, food scraps, horse manure, coffee, or like leftover coffee, all sorts of things come in here. So we make up recipes based on the molecular structure of all of those different feedstocks. We're not expecting for you to do that at home, although if you're a geek like me, you might want to. But looking at those recipes, I calculated out it is about the same volume-wise. So these big giant bucket loaders that you see rolling around here, 3 bucket loads of leaves to 1 bucket load of food scraps. Almost exactly. So that's kind of cool. But this is our primary brown food that we use for the composting process here. We do put in some wood chips. So those are around the corner. Sorry, everything's changed up. And this giant pile of sticks, as I call it, Stick Mountain, will be ground up, I believe, this weekend into wood chips that will be used in the compost process. Now, our wood chips are really to make air pockets for those microbes to breathe, because remember I told you they need oxygen, all right? Even in your backyard pile, they need oxygen to give them a little fluffle duffle do ya and get the oxygen in here. So this is behind the actual compost pad, or where all the action happens. And these are the fans that actually push air through the pile, but I'll get into that in just a second. I just want to avoid traffic and getting run over. So this is where the compost action takes place. All right, so food scraps, you bring your food scraps in, you bring your leaves in, and that's Stormin' Norman in the loader right there. Compost guru here at Green Mountain Compost. So what happens is he will make the recipe, he will mix it up as needs. Doing that blue conveyor belt spitting stuff out is actually our ginormous mixer. All right, and that mixer is about $100,000 Cuisinart for the most part. It's got augers in there that spin around and chop the food up. The smaller the pieces, the faster the food is going to break down into compost. He's scooping it up and he's filling up what we call the bays. This is phase 1. The compost, once it's all filled up, will stay in there for about 2 weeks. All right, and in 2 weeks, that pile is going to reduce down. So if you look at the second bay here, that's probably a pretty fresh batch. If you look at the pile to the right, the pile over here started off just like that one to the left of it. All right, so it will reduce in volume by about 40 or probably about 25% in the first 2 weeks. All right. So once it's in here, and we are monitoring the temperatures at all times. There are stakes stuck in there, and we're constantly monitoring the temperature. Why, you ask? So remember, I told you that those microbes they've got a lot of energy. They have 3 times the amount of energy put into it, or carbon put into it, as they do the protein. And so they get all that energy, and they start like running around, eating up all the food scraps, eating up all of the leaves, and anything else that's in there, and they start generating a lot of heat. Now our piles can get anywhere from 140 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 170. They actually have gotten a lot hotter than that, but that's not ideal. So this is what we call the microbes that are doing the composting is thermophiles. All right, they really love the heat. All right, and they like those high temperatures. But even like us, they're gonna die at a certain temperature. Once it starts like getting up above 175 degrees Fahrenheit, then they start like decreasing, dying off, and slowing down. So we want to monitor these and make sure that our piles are between 140 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically ride is about 145 to 165. All right, after 2 weeks, Norm will pull these all out onto this is the cement pad. All right, we'll pull it out here. He'll flip it around. He'll take water from the lagoon behind us. So that lagoon is catching freshwater runoff and just from the sky as well. All right, and then he will add that about 260 gallons per batch, which is crazy. But we want, like I said, they like water. The microbes really need water. They like it at about 60-65% moisture, meaning if you gave that compost a squeeze, it would stick together in a ball. Once he wets that all down, then he's going to load it into what we call phase 2, wide open. Now in phase 1, you can see it's all covered up. And that is one of the reasons is because you can see all of our friends wings around here. They like to kind of try to get a snack here and there. We don't know what's coming in with the food scraps. We don't know if there's raw meat in there or if there is vegetation that had bacterial disease or something. Our piles get hot enough to kill all of that off. And by state and federal regulations, we need to maintain these piles at 131 degrees Fahrenheit at least for 3 consecutive days to ensure all of those bad guys are killed off. Whether they're bacteria or fungal spores or viruses, weed seeds, all of that good stuff gets killed off. So we exceed that, as a matter of fact. So 2 weeks, it's turned around, it gets put into phase 2. All right, in phase 2, it'll stay there for 3 or 4 weeks. All right, just continuing to what we call cook down. All right, and again, these piles are toasty. Now you can see the bottom here, you can see these black tubes coming out. Those black tubes are actually pushing air through because these piles are giant, and food scraps are very heavy and dense, which is why we add the wood chips into it to kind of fluff it up a little bit. But in the middle of that pile, there's no way that oxygen's getting in there, and it would go what we call anaerobic or no oxygen. So we compost using static aeration. All right, those fans in the back that you saw earlier, they're actually working to push air right through these piles. Same thing's happening over here, except those pipes are embedded into the cement. All right, so it's getting oxygenated, and it also, that oxygen, that forced air in there, actually cools the piles off, because once these guys get a rocking and a rolling in there, the microbes, it can get hot. And like I said, we don't want it above 175 because that doesn't make them very happy. And again, we're here to create spa conditions for our microbial friends. All right, let's get a temperature on this and see what's happening in this pile. I can feel the heat already. All right, so you can see that thermometer booming on up there. Now, if Norm wasn't busy right now, he could come out here and he could like pick one of these piles and actually be like, that's 142. I've seen him predict the temperatures of piles and off by plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit. Crazy. That's why I call him Storm and Norman. So yeah, this one's like pushing 100. All right, and it might be just the location or that I can't get deep enough in there, and it could vary by location. So maybe if we move down here, try a different spot. Oh yeah, that one's already pumped up. So you can see, just depends. It varies on the location in your pile. Now your backyard pile probably isn't going to get this hot, although we do have one of our drop-off center operators and assistant supervisors actually gets her pile up in the summertime to like 140 degrees. So I just learned that the other day, and that's pretty incredible. So you can see that it gets really, really hot. And this is less than 3 feet into the pile itself. All right, so once we are done here, once this has been 3 or 4 weeks in this pile, then what happens is it's going to go get screened out. It is composted, but we're not, we like to secure a little longer, just to ensure when you're working with food scraps, composting food scraps is a little different than composting, like lobster shells or manure strictly. They're very acidic. All right, so when they start breaking down, they become very acidic, and we want to make sure all of those food scraps have been eaten up by the microbes. So we actually set it out into a field to cure for another 3 to 6 months, depending. We know it's ready to go when we have taken the temperature, and that temperature of the compost pile is the same temperature as the air or the ambient temperature. So we know that those guys have slowed down. There's no more food for them to eat, so they're just going to kind of lay dormant, and they're going to hang out into that compost. You're going to come and buy the compost, and you're putting it in your garden, and there's going to be other organic matter in there, other plants and animals that haven't quite broken down, and then those guys are just going to pop back to life, and then be beneficial for your garden too, and help your plants grow big and strong. All right, we're going to scooch around the corner here. Get a better look at these pipes right here too, and you can see that they you have to get on the back side here. Yeah, exactly. So that they do have holes drilled in them, so that when that air is, it's forcing up. They are rotated at different angles within the pile, so they're actually shooting air up throughout the whole entire pile. Is one of the 2 augers that are in that giant mixer where the food was spitting out. All right, so they spin around. And because we have fantastic engineers and people who really like to weld, this was an old feed grinder. All right, didn't come with the knives on the sides, but we welded those on. So as it spins around, those knives are slicing across. And if, like, say, big giant watermelons, whole watermelons come into us, it'll cut them down into smaller pieces. Just like your backyard, the smaller the pieces, the faster it'll compost, because you're creating more surface area for those microbes to nibble at. All right, let's head down this way again. We'll show you the screener, which is pretty fascinating. So, this is the screener. What happens is it'll come in and dump in all of the compost, all of the phase 2 compost, and it'll screen out. So big chunky monkeys are gonna come off this side towards us, all right? Other smaller stuff is gonna go through that tube, but there's a vacuum on there, like bags and things like that, all right? Off the far end is where the wood chips will come out. So it's sorting all of this through a trommel screen and star discs, all right? So it's all a bunch of physics in there. And then off the left, and we'll scooch by there and check that out, you'll see the compost coming off. And then, oh, you know what? Actually, that's a lie. They're screening, I think they're screening topsoil today. So we use this screener to not only screen our compost to go cure, but we also use it to screen and mix our different products. So here is the finished product. This will help your plants grow big and strong. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Have a spectacular afternoon.